Hey guys, in this video we are ready to dive into the finale of the Redux project. I've been working on it for well over a month and I now have a bunch of cymbals to show you. But before we get to that, let's listen to the original cymbal that inspired this project. All right, so what you just heard was a 22-inch from my Labyrinth series. It weighs 2,495 grams. It has a low shape. It's got a smaller hand-formed bell. It's got a lot of topography. And the idea was to work with the tension between a low shape with a lot of wobble, but still plenty of stick definition. I had a crazy response to dropping this cymbal. I had more people reach out to me about this particular one than any cymbal I've ever made in my entire cymbal smithing career. And it was the catalyst to get me to finally dive into this project that I'm calling the Redux. And basically what it is it's taking the inspiration of something that exists, using that as a springboard to create something new. I was aiming to get in the same vibe, in the same sonic character, the same landscape of the original, but I was not trying to perfectly clone, perfectly replicate the original cymbal. As much as I would love to perfectly replicate the cymbals that I make, it's not possible. Making reduxes of things that exist and using that as an inspiration point is very possible. It's what I do all the time in my cymbal making career. So I've picked a select number of the reduxes from this project to show you and to talk about today. There are some pressed bell versions, there's some hand-formed bell versions, there's different sizes. Obviously the original's a 22, but I also offered it in a 20 and a 21. So we're gonna dive into some of the cymbals that I made and get your guys' feedback. Let me know, in the comments below what you think of these reduxes. Do you think that they capture enough of the vibe and of the character of the original? So let's dive into that now. All right, so first up we have the 22-inch reduxes. I picked out 4 to show you. I have 3 that in my mind demonstrate kind of the range of sounds from brighter than the original to as close as I can get to the original to darker. And then I have a 4th one that's the one that is the most deviant of all of them, the one that really went in a different direction. And I encouraged that different direction, and I'll tell you about that when we get to that one. But first off, let's just play the original cymbal, and I'll play the cymbal that I believe is the closest that I got to the 22-inch Labyrinth. This one weighs in at 2,452 grams, so it's about 50 grams thinner than the original. And when I got into hyper analyzing the cymbal, I found that this original 22 Labyrinth is actually 22 1/8, slightly oversized. That slight oversize deal actually equates to about 30 grams approximately. That's given a lot of caveats there, but about 30 grams. So I knew in the last video I told you I was really aiming for right on the weight. And I did that because I knew I had margin to go a little bit thinner and be kind of relatively in the same place weight-wise. So this one ended up about 50 grams thinner. It's also slightly taller, so the fundamental pitch is higher. When I got into doing the reduxes of the cymbal, I wanted to address some of the things about the original that I wasn't a fan of. And the only thing I wasn't a fan of in the room is this is a rather washy cymbal. I don't typically make washy cymbals. This is a washier cymbal than I'm used to making. And so with the Redux project, I felt like I'm gonna bring back in a little bit more height to the profile so that it would control things a little bit more and not be so washy. when I play the original that I have on my far right, this is the 22-inch Labyrinth, 2,495 grams. I hear tons of these high frequency, like dancey kind of tones that are just shimmering on top of the entire sound of the cymbal. And that's what really is where I'm hearing wash in the original Cymbals sound. And then there's also this very low kind of growly thing. In this cymbal, I don't hear near as much of those shimmery, dancey tones on top. I hear more of a clear, high pitch stick definition, and then I hear this very clear low pitch. So it's like this Redux feels like a cleaned up version of the original, whereas this one is a bit more wild. This one is reined in ever so slightly, like very, very mild. And so also we got to think this is a little bit thinner relatively. So that would indicate maybe it's a lower pitch, maybe it'll have a lower pitch, but it also has a slightly higher profile. So the higher profile is going to bring the pitch up. So then that's where we start to get into the zone where we're not quite sure what we're hearing when we're playing them back to back. We can't really, it's not easy to lock into which is the lower pitch cymbal, which is the higher pitch, at least to me. I would say that if I had to answer that question, this Redux has a higher fundamental mainly because of that profile height being a little bit taller. It also has a slightly cleaner sound, a slightly drier sound, and in a way a slightly darker sound because we don't have all those dancing, shimmery frequencies on top of the cymbal sound. Interesting. So now let's check out where we start to veer off and go a little farther away from the original sound. So I'll take now the brighter end of the spectrum, which is this one. This one turned out to be 2,451 grams, so 1 gram thinner than the cymbal we just listened to, and this is how this one sounds. So that cymbal sounds incredibly close to the one I just played. If I put this cymbal next to that one, it might even be hard to tell which is different. But I do hear a little bit of a higher pitch, fundamental pitch, and I hear a little bit more control, and I hear a brighter tonality. I don't hear so much complexity going on in the cymbal. Again, the original is very, very, very complex and very wild in its sound. It's got a lot of sound that it's throwing off in all kinds of different areas, a lot of lows, a lot of mids, a lot of highs. These Reduxes are coming in more controlled and a little bit more functional in my mind for gigging situations where you want a cymbal that can speak clearly. So this is the brighter end of that spectrum. Now let's head over to the darker end. This cymbal I think turned out fantastic, and it as a Redux, an inspiration that is a jumping off point to something new. This one feels like it caught a very interesting vibe, and it's very distinct and unique, but it is more on the darker side compared to the original. This darker one does come in kind of lower in my mind. It kind of feels like it's a lower, darker sound than the original, but it gets closer, I think. Playing it just in the room right now, my perspective was different when I played it last week, and I was kind of fine-tuning it and dialing it in, and now that I'm sitting down in front of it, it's fresh. This is the first time I've touched this cymbal since I finalized it. And yes, I think this is the one that got the closest. This one landed at 2,468 grams, so it is kind of right in line with exactly 30 grams less, so relative, you know, it's right on 22, so relative we've got the same weight. We've got a different type of topography on these two cymbals, but we're really getting the same vibe. This darker one has this kind of, it's like a roaring crowd or a growling dragon or whatever you want to say. It's got that kind of, that thing to it that was really the thing that I think a lot of people really latched onto with the original sound. So this one might be my favorite so far that we've checked out. Next up, we have a really fun one. So this is the one where I veered off course, purposefully took it in a different direction, and I'm calling this one, I wrote down on the bell, the Deviant. This is the Deviant, and you'll know why I say that in just a moment. So in the last video, I talked about one of the customers who pre-ordered this cymbal said, hey, just throwing it out there, if you want to take this in a growlier, trashier, more aggressive realm, I'm all for it, go for it. So I said, I know exactly what to do. So I took the one cymbal that I ended up hammering a bit of a larger bell. It's slightly bigger in diameter, still very low. I took that cymbal, and at the very end I went in and just kind of went to town slamming these big heavy hammer strikes, and I did it all in this, basically from half the cymbal out to the edge, right in the playing surface. So what that did was it kind of took the shape and brought it up a little bit and kind of leveled off this section here, and so it's got this amazing shank sound where you get this kind of almost China-like sound to the crash, and it's got much more of that roar that I was talking about in the last cymbal. So let's check out this one. Yeah, this one, the Deviant, it definitely fits its name, the Deviant. It's got some anger to it. This guy's got some anger issues. He needs to go to some anger management therapy, I think. This is cool. This is not a all-around kind of sound. This is a very specific color. When you want that trashy, aggressive thing, a cymbal like this is awesome. It's got an amazing crash to it. Holy cow. You hit it, and it hits with that explosive energy and then gets out of the way. A cymbal like this would actually be awesome to go in and clamp the wing nut down if you wanted a little bit more articulation for jazz context. I'm kind of hearing like a thinner version of like something that Bill Stewart might play in a cymbal like this. So this is the one that I think veered off course the most. But again, we're talking Redux, we're talking inspiration point that you use to kind of go wherever it's going to go. I really like where that one turned out. So that is it for the 22s that had a hand-formed bell. Now let's move on to the press bell 22s. I got two to show you. Both are fairly similar, and both came in thinner. So this first one came in at 2,427 grams. We've got a pressed bell, so the bell is bigger. The bell is going to give us more tone, more sustain, a brighter pitch, especially since the bell is taller and bigger. And so I'm compensating by going extra heavy with the topography and thinner with the weight. So let's check it out. got so much movement to it. It's almost on the verge of being a little bit too floppy to my taste, because when you want to dig in and go blazing fast tempos, that movement is going to be something to navigate. It's kind of like playing fast on a floor tom that's tuned a little bit lower. It's different than playing on a high tension snare drum, because you're not really able to use the bounce in a predictable way, because the cymbal's actually moving a ton, and so you've got to be able to kind of ride with it, kind of go along for the ride with this, no pun intended. Sorry, that was bad. I'm a dad, so it's okay. But yeah, I really like this one. I liked how it turned out. It's got, again, slightly taller shape, so that fundamental pitch is higher, even though we're down, you know, like 80 grams thinner than the original. So that's the first press bell. Press bell number 2, very close in weight, 2,421 grams, very close to the other press bell. So again, we're about 80 grams. We're kind of getting closer to 80 grams thinner, compensating by a lot of topography, slightly higher shape for more control, and this is the sound we get. Again, a lot of flop. You'll be able to see it with the other angle, hopefully. But in the room, man, it's flapping around, going crazy. I love it though, because I feel like I can go along for the ride and really kind of play with the cymbal as it's responding to me. Obviously, I'm using a lot of bounce technique. I'm letting the cymbal kind of throw the stick back at me. But this is an example, you know, it's very loose, wobbly cymbal. When I go in to play those blazing up-tempo speeds, I can do it, but I can do it, I go a little bit higher on the surface. I'm kind of hitting a little bit more like in this area right here on the cymbal, as opposed to down near the edge. When I brought it down to the edge, it was, kind of hard to control because of that movement. But that was the thing with actually raising the shape up a little bit, is that helps, even though it's wobbly, it helps kind of up near the riding zone. You're getting a surface that you can play off of, and it's not going to feel too sluggish. So that's the other press bell. Now we got to go to a 21 and a 20. This is the last step of this process, is to show you 21, 20, and then we'll wrap this video up. So the 21 that had the press bell that I thought was the closest is this guy, and it weighs 2,166 grams. We're kind of in line with, actually this is even a bit thinner than the other 22, so we're kind of relative, we're thinking about 100, 150 grams thinner than the target cymbal, but we got the press bell, so that's given us an increase in volume and sound, and then we have more topography, a slightly higher profile for control, and this is the sound we get. So now we have this kind of pitch interval relationship because of the smaller size, and you know, obviously the bigger diameter is going to have a lower fundamental, but then it has a lower shape, the original. So the higher one, slightly taller shape, it's got a higher pitch just because of the size, but also because of the profile. But that pitch interval is in a way that if you were trying to create a full set of these, I could see both of these working well together as an alternate color when you want to move to a different cymbal. Personally, I would want to go for something a little bit more contrasting for building out a set, but it's kind of an interesting note that when we get into these smaller cymbals, we're dealing with cymbals that might even work well together in the same set. So that's the 21 pressed. First up, we have this guy. This is 2,276 grams. So this is 100 grams heavier than the pressed bell I just showed you. But because it's got the hand-formed bell, it's much smaller and lower. You're going to get a different vibe than you would expect, given that it's 100 grams heavier. Darker and lower. This one very much feels like the same cymbal in different diameters to me, where the way I'm hearing that pitch relationship and then the general vibe and character feels like the same cymbal. So I like that one a lot. Now let's check out the other pressed bell or hand-formed bell. This one came in at 2,264 grams. Even lower, even darker. The wobble on this one is wild too. That's the thing too, that I purposefully left these cymbals and I waited till I hit record to actually have kind of an organic reaction to what I was hearing, because the last time I played these was last week when I finalized them. And so as they've rested, I'm seeing more wobble on the Reduxes than I am even on the original. So with that, as a cymbal maker, I make a judgment call. whether or not I want to tighten that up. And I can do that without taking weight off. I can do that with a simple burnish pass on top. But everything I've played so far, my honest reaction is nothing is too wobbly, nothing is too loose to where it would actually cause a hindrance in being able to play it. The other thing is that as the metal ages over the years, it's going to kind of stiffen and age harden, as they say. So it will get harder, which will kind of bring it back in the right direction. It won't get looser unless there are some really drastic things done by lots of bending or tons of wailing away on it by whoever receives the cymbal. That's a different matter, but that's something interesting to note. So now we got the last two 20-inch, a pressed bell and a hand-formed. This one comes in at 1,952 grams. I used to make my 20s, they used to be like averaging around 1,800 grams. And that's cool and all, but a lot of times you have to have a really tall shape on a cymbal that thin for it to speak clear enough. So the idea of going lower on the shape, more topography, really does require just a touch more weight when we're talking about creating a jazz style cymbal. So 1,950 is a wonderful weight when you're going a little lower on the shape. So let's check out how this one sounds. Yeah, so definitely, again, pitch relationship, we're separating the intervals even more. But this one has an unbelievable level of dryness, and that's due to how much topography there is on the cymbal. It'll be easier to see when the camera's behind me, but lots of topography. So, you know, if it was a smoother surface, it would sustain way more. We'd have a lot more wash. But that topography kind of reins everything in, kind of keeps it contained. So you get that character of a lower shaped cymbal without the drawbacks, which is just too much sustain, which is essentially you're getting into crash cymbal territory when you don't have other factors that help kind of rein in the sound. So pressed bell 20, and last but not least, hand-formed bell 20. This one weighs 1,939 grams, lower hand-formed bell. This one got very, very close in my mind to the vibe and the feel of the original, but in a 20-inch size. I really appreciate you guys watching this. If you're interested in ordering a cymbal from me or from us here at Reverie, we have a website, reveriedrums.com, and we also upload some batches of cymbals every now and then. I'm trying to get better at doing a batch drop every 2 weeks, but I do have a commission form on the shop page where you can actually order a commission, and it comes in 3 styles. So style 1 is a Redux. If you have seen a cymbal or heard a cymbal of mine that you really like, you can order a Redux, and basically that means I'll go in and make a cymbal inspired by that original sound. And the second option is just an order of one of my Timothy Roberts brand cymbals. So you can order a Landmark series or a Labyrinth or whatever series that I offer, and then you can give me your desired specs for the weight and the different finish options, different bell options, things like that. And then the third option is custom tailored. That's where if you have an idea based off of a cymbal from a recording and you love the way that one Tony Williams ride sounds and you want something like it, you can order a custom tailored. And that is a much more involved process where I'll be doing a lot of research into original recordings, videos, pictures, all that kind of stuff to create your cymbal. So if you're interested in that, head over to the website. But in the meantime, like I said, drop a comment below, let me know what you think. Like and subscribe and share the video if you thought it was interesting. You can hit the bell if you want notifications, and please keep an eye out for the next video where we might even dive into something different than cymbals, maybe go into the world of drums a little bit for the first time in a while. So keep an eye out for that, and until next time, I'm Timothy Roberts. Thanks for watching.